All right, we're going to go ahead and kick this off. Welcome, everyone. My name's Maya. I'm VSCO's community manager, pronounced she, her. As I mentioned, you're here at the first ever creator session. Yay! Once a month, we will be connecting with our community with virtual events, hopefully in person soon, around topics that you guys picked. So if you're part of our Discord, I'll be sharing that link in the chat as well. We asked you guys what you wanted this first event to be about, and you guys voted. You said you wanted to learn more about VSCO education and our tools. So this is how this event came about. So we really appreciate it. We also really appreciate your membership. So thank you so much for being here today. Without further ado, I'm going to turn my camera off and pass this off to our guest speaker, software engineer, Trevor. Go ahead and take it away, Trevor.
Time to jump into HSL, the reason we're all here today. So in this image, let me back up. So HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. You can see that on the left. And you have your 6 colors on the bottom. These colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and magenta, purple, those are corresponding to that color in your image. So when I select the green at the bottom, I'm now making local adjustments to just the greens in my image. So if I want to bump up the saturation of the greens in my image, I can drag the green saturation slider to the right. This is obviously an extreme example, but yeah, saturation is how much of that color, how intense that color is. So no saturation is like almost black and white for the greens, and max saturation is that really strong green. I wouldn't recommend keeping it at 6, but this is a good tip to how you can make hue adjustments. So the hue slider lets you adjust, for example, for the greens, you can make your greens more teal, more blue, or more orangey yellow. And likewise for yellows, you can make yellows more orange or more green, and oranges more yellow and more red. Basically, you can shift them over one color, and you can achieve some pretty stylistic looks with this. After this photo, I'm going to jump over to a sunset photo where there's a lot of yellows, oranges, and reds. You can really see that. This photo really only has green and yellow. So a tip I'll say for making hue adjustments is to max this saturation slider like I've done, and you can really tell where that color is going. So in this photo, the theme is coolness and cold. So I'm going to bring the greens to the right a bit. This will make them more blue. And you can double tap to bring that saturation back to 0. Now I can make actual saturation adjustments. I think I'd like to go a little bit desaturated, just in the theme of being muted, moody. And the lightness slider is how bright or dark the image is. Usually dropping the lightness will make that color darker, but also richer. And brightening it, make it more airy, bright, but less saturation as well. So again, I'm gonna drop that lightness down. I think I'm gonna make a similar adjustment with the yellows because they're also in this image on that right tree. So just a little bit of hue, a little less saturation, a little less lightness. And that's how I make HSL adjustments in this image. Less is more. You can really make drastic edits with HSL. You have to be careful with skin tones in HSL, which we may do a future presentation on. Right now, I'm just focusing on like places and landscapes. So you kind of have free reign over those oranges and yellows, whereas when there's skin tones involved, you have to be a little more careful. Yeah, I'm going to pause here for any questions on this image, and then I'm going to go to more of a sunset image.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I hope you all are following along. I don't know if you can see mine, but I'm working on one as we speak, and I'm learning a lot. I actually have a quick question. Does it matter the order that you're working in as you're editing? And if it does, where do you place your HSL in your toolkit essentially when you're editing?
Great, yeah, great question. So the order does not matter. It only matters to how you want to like logically think about things. So I followed the order that the app has kind of placed me through, which is you get dumped on a preset and then tools logically follow. And then I place the tools in the order that I usually make edits. So I start with a base, which is like this preset, and that gets my colors to where I'd like. Then I make exposure adjustments, contrast, HSL, but that's all personal preference. You could start with HSL, and I'm actually going to do that in the next image. And yeah, your final image, if you make all the same adjustments, but just in a different order, your final image will be the same. And yeah, you can ask for a before and after. I'll do this one more time.
Yeah, that would be sick. That'd be so cool.
Yeah. So original, warm, bright, moody, dark, cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. You guys, if you have questions too, we're going to be getting to the Q&A portion in a minute or so. We already have one question in, so go ahead and follow that link that I dropped in the chat, and you can leave comments or questions. Yeah, this is super awesome, Trevor. Maybe just going back to the HSL tool, do you know a little bit more about the history of that and why professional photographers use it, or why it's good to maybe educate yourself on that tool, why it's a handy tool to know?
History. I've never had a formal education in photography, so history I would need to defer to Google. But I can shed some light on the second question, which is like why professional photographers would want to use this. It's like color is such a big factor in like how stunning your image could be, and just having control over all the colors individually is just super powerful to be able to make those, you know, minute adjustments. So.
And you don't even need to know color theory essentially to understand this, right? You just need to kind of get in there and see how, like, I like how you gave us that tip to really see the effect. Was it the hue or the saturation slider? You said pull that all the way to the right to see what you're doing. That's a great tip. So
yes, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, Alexander had a similar question, and that's actually a great segue into the next photo I wanted to edit, and I'll do the exact same tip in this photo. So you're totally right. Maxing, the tip I shared is to max the saturation, and then you can, it just basically makes you really able to see where the color is in the image. So for example, this image is a sunset photo I took. I really like the way the sun was hitting these clouds. And in this photo, you can tell at the top right, it's starting to do it. I really like when sunsets start to get that pink kind of like cotton candy, like clouds on fire look. And so we can really make that apply to the whole image. So there's, in the bottom left, it's kind of orangey. And so when I max the saturation here, you can really see that where the orange is in the image. And so from here, I want to make it more pink and red. So I can drag that hue almost all the way to the left, make it almost red or pink itself. Drop the saturation back down to it, like more natural, normal level. Maybe bump it up to really highlight it. And I'm going to do the same with the yellows. You can see where the yellows are. Make those more orange. Basically, I'm just making all these shifts to the left. We can do the same with reds. See, there's a little bit of them. Make them more pink. Drop the saturation again. So I basically just made these 3 kind of drastic hue adjustments to the reds, oranges, and yellows. And for drama, drop the exposure just slightly. And now you can see before, it's this orange, kind of more early sunset into a more dramatic, darker pink cotton candy like sunset. And I did that all just with HSL and a little exposure drop. You can get even crazier and go into the blues. And see, that's the blue there. So maybe you want to go for more of the teal look. Drop that back down. Just play around with it, see where it looks nice.